So, Ian Rapoport talked about Trey. And listen, every time we hear anything about Ian Rapoport or anything from Jay Morrison, anything from Mike Florio, Michael yeah, I can't say his name correctly. Michael Fabiano. Anytime we hear anything from these NFL insiders, what that means is the Bengals are putting stuff out there. I'm just saying, that's pretty much how it works. Trey's going to clearly show his side. Kelsey Conway always shows the player side. Any other insider is coming straight from the Cincinnati Bengals. So, let's go ahead and listen up to what Ian had to say on Pat McAfee's show. But again, it's almost ironic here how Trey goes on Pat McAfee's show, exposes the Bengals. Now, Ian Rapoport goes on the show to express that the Bengals are going to pay him. I'm sorry, but I love this teenage drama back and forth, man.
Kind of getting screwed here playing his last season and then having to try and get a new deal somewhere else next year in free agency.
So I would be surprised as of right now if he got traded, mainly because, let's say the Bengals held out for a premium draft pick. We're talking first rounder, right? Which for someone as talented as Trey Hendrickson, that would make a lot of sense. Problem is, value-wise, not every team wants to give a first rounder and then a huge new contract to someone who's 30 years old, just philosophically, right? I remember when Bill Belichick was coaching the Patriots, you guys know, before North Carolina, he was the greatest coach of all time with the Patriots. I don't think he ever traded for a player and then gave him a new contract. Could be wrong, but I don't think he ever did. Some people philosophically don't believe in that. So if you're going to do that now, even if you found let's say you found a first rounder, you're not going to use it till next year. So that hurts the Bengals this year, because if it had happened before the draft, you could have just.
That's why if we did trade him, which I don't think we would, but if we did trade him, the front office would get so much pushback, because you could have traded him and got a top 10 pick, maybe a top 5 pick if you would have packaged picks together. But instead you waited, which I respect, because I'd rather have Trey than have some first round guy, which based on how the Bengals draft, they do a little bit, they like going after projects a little bit. I'd rather have someone who isn't a project, who I know what I'm going to get out of, that rather than a project who could be good or could be bad. You never know, right? So the only way right now it makes sense to somehow trade Trey would be you're not trading him for a draft pick, because right now trading for a draft pick is stupid. It doesn't, as Ian said, it doesn't help us this year. You would be trading him for a player. It would be a player-player trade, which Micah Parsons. Trade us Micah Parsons and a third for Trey, and we will. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to trade. We're not trading away Trey. That was obviously a joke. Let's listen to the rest of this actually before I give my next thought.
Just gotten a player to help you this year, so the timing makes a trade extremely hard. I still believe the Bengals are going to pay him. I don't know that going to the press helps. The way the Bengals are, they might have been
Okay, I do want to bring up this point, and it's mainly that he does say that no team wants to trade for him and then give him a big contract because he's 30 years old. Again, we have to remember this and keep this in mind. A lot of people forget about this. Trey Hendrickson, last offseason, threatened to retire if he did not get a new deal. Okay, so keep this in mind. As Ian says here, 30 years old, teams don't want to trade for a 30-year-old and give him a huge contract. They also don't want to do that for a player who threatened retirement if he doesn't get what he wants. So, there's so many factors in this Trey Hendrickson situation. This is why looking at it, there's no one way to look at Trey Hendrickson's situation. You can't just say this, that, or a third. You can't say, well, this side is right or this side is right, because there's so many different factors. It's so many different, well, he threatened to retire. Well, he wanted to be traded. Well, he signed a contract. Well, he's not living up to his contract.
All right, like, you want to do that? Do your thing. We'll do it when we're ready. But I still think he is a huge part of the organization. They want him to stay, and I believe they will pay him.
Yeah, I don't think he was worried about the Bengals liking him going to the press, brother. I think I don't think it was about the Bengals. I think it was about every other team knowing, like, hey, there has been no update.
You think that's why he went?
I don't know. I've not talked to him directly, but he's not going to the media to appease the Bengals.
They went first.
Yeah, he's going. Yeah, she already has done enough.
That's true. That's right.
He should be lucky with the offer that he's been given, even though he's a sacking. Is how he took her message. I'm not saying that's exactly how it went. So I don't think he was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to the media to try to make the Cincinnati Bengals happy here today. I think he was telling the Cincinnati media his side of the story. He was telling the Cincinnati Bengals fans his side of the story, what's going on, and I think he was telling the other teams, like, hey.
He tried to force the Bengals' hands. And this is not the first time we have seen a player try to force the front office hands into doing what they wanted. It doesn't work. It never works. The front office, again, I say this a million times, they go off of principle, values, and pettiness. That's what the front office goes off of. Don't make them don't embarrass them. Don't make them look stupid. Don't make them look like they don't know what they're doing, even though we all have our opinions on that. Because if you do, they're going to try to make you look like the idiot. Right? They're going to try to make you look like the idiot in the end. So, he tried to force their hand. He failed. And I know even Rapoport just said he believes that the Bengals will pay Trey in the end. Maybe they will. Maybe they will in the end. I hope they do. I hope this situation gets over with, because it's so much back and forth. And I'm so tired of it. Honestly, can we please I just want to focus on something else. I want to be able to focus on something else other than, will he get signed? Will he not get signed? Will he play? Will he not play? We went from the Jamar Chase situation last offseason, where we had the same situation where we thought, well, he's not going to training camp. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I'm tired of it. Can we have an offseason where we get to sit here and enjoy the offseason? Well, let's be honest. Nobody enjoys offseason. But we can actually calmly go through the offseason. It's back and forth, man. It's a back and forth a million times. And I'm so tired of this Trey Hendrickson situation. It is what it is.
Still what's going on here or whatever, I don't think that was necessarily to get a deal done for the Bengals, because I think he's at the point of, like, this should have been done. There's been no conversation. So
again, yeah, he tried to force their hand and he failed. And yeah, maybe they will pay him. Maybe they will pay him in the end. But I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to make him sweat. They're not going to pay him right away. They're going to make him stay out, not practice, not do all this stuff. And then they might pay him right before the season starts. But after they fine him heavily for not being at OTAs, not being at all these different things, training camp, etc., they're probably going to fine the crap out of him. And then they're going to say, okay, we'll work out a deal. And then he's not going to be 100% for the beginning part of the season. He might start off the season very slow because of that. And then it's just going to be the same old start to the season slow. And then we got to get going later on. It's a frustrating situation. That's why I've said many times at this point, just pay him, get it over with, right? Because it's just not worth it. And again, yeah, we should... In reality, he should fire his agent. He should get Roxy, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins' agent, fire his agent, get the actual Roxy as his agent. This extension, 1-year extension, should never have been a thing. He should have signed a long-term contract 2 years ago when he was 28 years old. He should have signed like a 4 or 5 year deal with the Bengals. And that should have been the deal that we were talking about. And that would have been perfect. Same situation with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase situation should have been solved last offseason. Last offseason, he would have been making $37 a year. Now he's making over $40. T. Higgins situation should have been solved 2 years ago. It was not. This is the problem with the front office is they procrastinate, push things off, and they wonder why things become a mess. This is why. Who dey, boys? Who